House Brune of Brown Hollow are a house of landed knights from Brown Hollow in the Crownlands. Brown Hollow is supposedly located on Cracklaw Point. However, we are not certain of its exact location. According to some sources, House Brune blazon their arms with bear paw, brown on white, with double treasure brown, with their house words currently not known. The Brunes of Brown Hollow are distant cousins to the Brunes of the Drayden, west of Maidenpool on the shores of the Bay of Crabs. Interestingly, we know more about the cadet branch, House Brune of Brown Hollow, than the original House Brune of Dryden. How the Brown Hollows and the Drayden Brunes are related is not known to us. However, it is assumed that the Brown Hollows became a cadet branch sometime before Aegon's conquest and the formation of the Crownlands, given they are already known to have existed during the conquest. Given that pre-conquest, Massey's Hook was part of the domain of the Storm Kings of House Durrandon sporadically over the years, it is speculated that House Brune of Brown Hollow may have been sworn to them at one point in history. The first member of House Brune of note is Bernarr Brune, who was a squire to Lord Alan Stokeworth, who acted as hand of the king to King Aegon I during the final years of his reign, and then for his son, King Aenys I. When Lord Alan was slain by the rebel Arryn the Red, Bernarr avenged him by killing Arryn. Bernarr was rewarded with a knighthood by the grateful King Aenys. In 42 AC, after the death of Aenys, when his brother Maegor usurped the throne and crowned himself king, Bernarr was present at Visenya's Hill when the new King Maegor was challenged by Sir Daemon Morrigan, Grand Captain of the Warrior's Sons, to a trial of 7 to settle the legitimacy to the Iron Throne. Bernarr kept quiet when Maegor called upon those who would stand beside him, but was shamed into action by the volunteering of Dick Bean, a simple man-at-arms. Bernarr spoke out, offering to stand beside the king, and noting that all present were no true knights. Bernarr's appeal succeeded, and many offered their swords. He would die a few years later, fighting the Warrior's Sons on behalf of Maegor. During the Targaryen Civil War of Succession, known as the Dance of the Dragons, between the years 129 and 131 AC, the Brunes declared for Rhaenyra Targaryen and her Black faction. Late in the war, Brune forces joined Lord Wallace Mouton to liberate Rook's Rest from the control of King Aegon II's Greens. Later, during Robert's Rebellion in 283 AC, men of House Brune were with Rhaegar Targaryen during the Targaryen loss at the Battle of the Trident, in which Robert Baratheon famously killed the prince with his famed warhammer at the Ruby Ford. In the years after the rebellion, during the reign of King Robert I Baratheon, 2 members of House Brune play a role in the main book series. The most important of these, a man named Lothor Brune. He once travelled to Brown Hollow after the death of his father, being distant kin of House Brune. He wished to form a familiar bond with his cousins, but they said he was no kin of theirs and rejected his attempt. It is not known whom was present at Brown Hollow during the visit, but it is likely Sir Bernarr Brune, whom is the head of House Brune. Lothor himself is described as a small man with a stocky build and a square jaw. He has a squashed nose and a mat of woolly grey hair. Lothor has a rough voice but speaks very little. Sansa Stark thinks that Lothor is not a handsome man, but also not ugly and generally very average. She thinks he is stronger than he appears. She considers Lothor to be honest, and Peter Baelish deems him loyal. Lothor wears patched brown breeches and scuffed boots with cracked water-stained leather jerkin. He has a drab armour and dented plate without a device. Lothor wields a sword in one hand and a knife in the other. During the events of A Game of Thrones, Lothor takes part in the Hands Tourney to celebrate Lord Eddard Stark becoming the new Hand of the King. He takes part in the tourney in King's Landing as a freerider. He defeats Jory Cassel, whom is in the retinue of Lord Stark, on the judgment to King Robert I Baratheon, and then ties with Sir Arryn Santagar, and finally loses to Sir Robar Royce. During the events of A Clash of Kings, Lothor is in the lists for the tourney on King Joffrey's name day. However, as his opponent Sir Dontos Hollard is too drunk to ride his horse, their tilt is called off. Lothor later fights on behalf of Joffrey during the Battle of the Blackwater, cutting his way through House Fossaway man-at-arms to capture Sir John Fossaway and kill Sir Brian and Sir Edwin Fossaway, earning him the nickname Lothor Apple Eater, as the Fossaway sigil is an apple. For his efforts in the battle, Lothor is awarded his knighthood and is to be granted lands and a keep in the Riverlands at the end of the War of Five Kings. Technically, this would mean Lothor would be forming a new 3rd cadet branch of House Brune. Lothor reassumes the House Brune arms, differentiated by the addition of his own achievements battling the Fossaways. How he does this, however, has currently not been described. During the events of A Storm of Swords, Sir Lothor enters the service of Lord Peter Baelish, the Master of Coin. Taking orders from Peter, Lothor commands the crossbowmen on the Merlin King, who killed Sir Dontos Hollard, to keep secret of Sansa Stark's departure from the Red Keep amid the events of the Purple Wedding. Lothor and Oswald Kettleback then rode Peter and Sansa to shore when the Merlin King arrives at the Fingers, following the marriage of Lysa Arryn to Peter at the Baelish Keep. Lothor protects Sansa, now under the alias of Elaine Stone, from the unwanted advances of the singer Marillion. Upon his arrival at the Eyrie, Lord Baelish dismisses the captain of House Arryn's guard, Sir Marwyn Belmore, and names Lothor his replacement, much to the anger of Marwyn. During the events of A Feast for Crows, to prevent Lord Robert Arryn from climbing into her bed, Sansa asks Lothor to lock the boy in his room. When Robert later has a shaking fit and slips from the Eyrie's weirwood throne, Lothor catches the young lord before he hits the floor. The spasming Robert accidentally kicks Lothor in the face while being restrained. During the parley with the Lords Declarant, Sir Lothor stands at the door of Peter's Solar. When Sir Lyn Corbray draws a famed Valyrian steel sword, Lady Forlorn, Lothor goes for his own sword. Before anything can happen, however, Lyn is convinced by the other Lords Declarant to put his famed blade away. Lord Robert Arryn is reluctant to leave the Eyrie when it is time to descend to the Gate of the Moon for winter, as winter has approached. After the boy tosses his chamber pot at Maester Coleman, Lothor seeks out Sansa's help in coaxing the boy from his bed. Lothor helps Maud load the supplies in the winch room, and Ozzy helps the knight descend the giant's lance. Sansa thinks Lothor is taking a liking to Maya Stone, the bastard daughter of the late King Robert Baratheon. Noticing that Lothor always smiles when he speaks of Maya, Miranda Royce is skeptical of Lothor's prospects with Maya, and until we see the Winds of Winter, that is all we currently know of Lothor and House Brune.